Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our briefing on the City of Philadelphia's response to gun violence. This briefing is for press only. If you are not a member of the press, please log out and watch today's live stream on the City of Philadelphia's Facebook page, or you can also tune in on 900 AM or 96.1 FM WURD. We'll begin our briefing with opening remarks by Mayor Jim Kenney. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thanks, Dina. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I want to provide a brief update on the timeline for the new Anti-Violence Community Partnership Grant Program, which we announced last week. Through this initiative, we're deepening our partnership with City Council and our communities to address our city's gun violence crisis by tapping into organizations on the ground in our neighborhoods. With support of the Monitoring Board, we also announced last week, which will provide guidance to the organizations applying for and receiving grants, will invest in community-driven prevention work through funding and organizational supports, and help us build on what's working through evaluation. This is an important piece of the city's historic investment in violence prevention. This new $22 million program will provide grants ranging from $100,000 to $1 million and capacity building support for mid-sized community-based organizations. The application window will open on Friday, August 6th, and will be posted on the Office of Criminal Justice and Public Safety's website, phila.gov//CJPS. The application will be open for 4 weeks and will close on September 3rd. Because there is urgency to get these applications vetted and to provide resources to organizations as swiftly as possible, applications will be considered on a rolling basis beginning on August 16th. We're moving quickly and efficiently to get this funding out to our communities who are hurting tremendously. We're looking for programs that expand access to community-based trauma services, build relationships to promote mental and emotional well-being, as well as support services to help individuals highly at risk to be able to obtain and keep a job. As a reminder, this is different from our other targeted community investment grant program that funds smaller programs run by organizations on the ground. These are for mid-sized and larger organizations. The most recent application period for the TGIC program closed on July 23rd, and these applications are being reviewed. While this is a major new initiative, the Anti-Violence Community Partnership Grant Program is just one piece of the historic $155.7 million that we are investing this year to reduce and prevent violence. Now I'll turn it over to Erica Atwood, who will provide an update on our Next Gen Task Force. Erica?
Thank you, Mayor Kenney. Good afternoon, everyone. And wanted to kind of lift up some of the good work we know is being done in community. And so kind of elevating assets over deficits today. Thank you, Dina. And so data shows that the highest number of victims and perpetrators of gun violence tend to be young people. And what we want to do is engage young people where they are, build new partnerships with community organizations that are led and in supporting youth who are at a high risk, and also support individuals who are youth leaders. Part of that partnership is we partnered with Dope Shows, who are concert promoters. We were able to go out on we were able to distribute 100 tickets to young people that are engaged in positive programming through our Next Gen Task Force. We are setting up a partnership with Dope Shows to potentially have internships for young people who are interested in event production and large scale concerts. We also participated in the Little Dirk show that was on July 16th and able to take out brand ambassadors to that show. Next slide. So a part of our brand ambassadors, there were 8,000 people who were in attendance at the show. We partnered with community organizations, One's Up and Rising Queens. They are two organizations dedicated to the development of youth and young adults across the city through peer-to-peer mentoring models. We distributed information, had positive youth engagements. As you can see from the t-shirts, there is a QR code on the back, and we were able to send young people and attendees to the concert to resources that are readily available through the city and some of our partner organizations. I'd like to note that that concert had 0 incidents of violence that night, and we believe kind of the positive messaging that exists in that is a part of that. through through dope shows, we were able to, on the Jumbotron, put up a PSA. Dina, next slide. And through that PSA, we began to promote our message, Philly, we lost enough. And we'll play that video for you now. We can't hear the audio, Dina. Dina, can you pause it? We're not getting the audio.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm hearing it on my end, so I'm not sure, but we can.
Yeah. If you're going to share screen, share computer audio.
Can you drop it in the chat?
Yeah, we'll drop it in the chat. Erica, why don't we go to your next slide and then I try to do that.
And so really want to focus on how we're organizing young leaders through our Next Gen Task Force. The Next Generation Task Force is a program designed to identify, designed to identify and support the development of youth and young adults between the ages of 17 and 30. These are leaders that are acutely in neighborhoods that are acutely vulnerable to gun violence. The program seeks to support the community service they're engaged in, strengthen their skills by providing training and capacity building, as well as work together to develop and implement a community program that supports multi-generational coalition building. And today we have 3 members of the Next Generation Task Force with us. They're going to talk a little bit about who they are, what their programs are, and how they engage with the task force. And first up, we have Kimberly Reese, Kim from Guiding Stars. Next slide. So Kim.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kimberly Reese. I am the founder and CEO of Guiding Stars. We are based in the Northwest section of Philadelphia. Our main goal is to address the issues of the inner city youth for the ages of 12 and 21. Over the summer, we had the pleasure of hiring 50 youth and supported 4 different businesses throughout the city through the PYM program. Upcoming September and October, we'll be launching our new program called Bridging the Gap for a Better Community, which focuses on workforce development, financial literacy, social and emotional skills, and potential job placements for the youth that are a part of that program. Also, being a member of the New Generation Task Force, we are currently looking for youth leaders ages 17 to 38. And that's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Next, we have Eugene Buddha Thomas from Power Circle Mentoring.
How y'all doing, everybody? Thank y'all for the opportunity. Thank you to the City of Philadelphia and the Next Gen Task Force for allowing me to share my platform with you guys. I'm the president of Power Circle Mentors. We're a youth nonprofit located in the Frankfurt section. We deal with youth the ages of 12 to 19 years old. We host twice a week programming with guest speakers and light dinner to serve the community. Which the other part is we do the Power Circle movement, which we host events all throughout the city. We just did a night market last week. It brought tons of people out to be able to, generate money in our neighborhood. The second part was we did a free haircut thing for the kids and free hairdos. So we do events once a week with different organizations. This up and coming school year, we want to provide services to different contracts that we got with the school district. We have Mass Street Charter School, and then we got a couple local schools in Frankfurt section that will be doing our program inside the schools. So it was definitely a great opportunity working with the Next Generation Task Force. It allows us to have strength in numbers with other great people throughout the city to connect with and to just to create this platform. So just thank you again. And then we also have an event coming up August 14th. We did one on 11th New York. This will be the part 2. It was definitely a success. Just allow us to connect with different people in the city and different youth organizations. So thank you again, y'all.
Thank you, Buddha. And next up we have Mary Mazi Ingram. You're on mute, babe.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mazi Ingram, and I am the organizer and founder of New Author Grads. New Author Grads started as a community trunk party specifically for homeless and foster care graduates who will be going off to college in the fall. And we expanded it to also service and support low-income first-generation college students. So this summer, myself and 5 other young people ranging between the ages of 16 to 18, I'm 18 years old. We came together, crowdfunded funds and also crowdfunded resources to provide 10 individuals with all of their college essentials, everything from bedding to school supplies. We also had some guest speakers come out to speak to them about financial literacy and then also college readiness. So topics like imposter syndrome and also utilizing campus resources. I was supported by the Next Gen Task Force to make this vision a reality. As an 18-year-old, there are not many resources or connections that I had prior to joining the Next Gen Task Force. And thank you to Erica and Mr. Morris and also other members of the task force like Buddha and Kim for supporting me and connecting me to different people, resources, helping me get a venue, helping me crowdfund and all of those great things. Moving forward, I look to have this event be an annual event and have some form of year-round planning. As a college student myself, I do understand that I don't have as much time on my hands to work round the clock on this project, but I do hope to, with my team, have some form of regular programming with the students that we served and beyond.
Thank you, Mazi.
Thank you.
And so you got to hear straight from the participants in the program. Dina, could you put the slides back up? And so Buddha mentioned our next event. We have that event coming up on Saturday, Saturday, August 14th. It is going to be in partnership with Urban Creators at Life Do Grow Farm. And it is an event to kind of network with other youth community leaders. We do typically have a food truck that we provide for participants. We provide food for participants, and it's just an opportunity to build community in a safe, in a community-focused space. And I think we're going to try again for the video now.
What's up, y'all? Pastor Carl here.
I'm Mazi Ingram.
It's your favorite founder, John Solomon here.
This is Minister Ant. In Philly, we have lost enough.
Lately, we losing so many youth. So many parents are having to bury their kids.
The senseless killing, the gun violence, the innocent women and the innocent children are being affected.
Families and mothers not only mourn their loss, but are also in fear of meeting their same fate.
Anytime we have to worry about ourselves, our women, our children, and our elders walking the streets of Philadelphia safely, the violence is out of control, especially gun violence.
I remember a time when we could go to parties and cookouts without being in fear of a tragedy.
It's time for our kids, our elders, and our women to have the luxury to walk the communities and feel safe again.
Brothers, I want to challenge y'all to take advantage of the people that you have around you to help you.
If you have an issue within your community that may lead to gun violence,
reach out to any city officials, any local leaders that sit down, that solve these conflicts.
We're looking for faith leaders, individuals, community leaders, politicians, it don't matter what you are. Anybody that's willing to stand up.
Philly, it doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to live in fear.
You got faith leaders like myself, you got the city. There are resources that are available to you.
Feel free to reach out to your local leaders, your local faith leaders, so we can come in and resolve the issue peacefully before we lose another life to gun violence.
Philly, we've lost enough.
Philly, we have lost enough.
You lost enough.
We have had enough.
You lost enough. Let's get it together.
What's up, y'all?
I'm Mozzie Ingram.
What's your favorite founder?
John Solomon.
Thank you. And I'd like to give kind of a special shout out to Anton Moore in South Philadelphia, who helped us put that video together. Here to answer any questions myself and the members of the task force will remain. With that, I'll pass it to Commissioner Danielle Outlaw.
Good afternoon. Last night was National Night Out. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the National Night Out began actually right here in the Philadelphia region almost 4 decades ago. It's an opportunity for the community to get to know their neighbors better and to connect with people they may not know in their own community, including the police officers that patrol their neighborhoods every day. This display of solidarity serves many purposes. Not only does it connect neighbors with each other and with police officers, it also highlights that the community and the police have the same goals in mind: safety, collaboration, mutual respect, and understanding. Philadelphians deserve to feel safe, and we, the police, want to work together with our communities to make that a reality. This isn't something we should be dreaming about. It's actually something that should be happening right now. Although National Night Out is over, it does not mean that the police will wait until the next year to collaborate with our communities again. National Night Out is our mission statement in action, and we strive to reach these goals every single day. Since we began these bi-monthly press conferences, I, along with other members of the PPD, have made it a point to inform the public of some of the proactive things that the PPD is doing to provide better service to our community, including community outreach and youth programming. I'm happy to announce that the PPD's Youth Advisory Commission launched today. The PPD created the Youth Advisory Commission so that officers and youth could work hand in hand to create positive change in their communities. The YAC is open to all youth ages 14 to 18, and I encourage all eligible applicants to apply and be a part of the change. If anyone's interested in becoming a Youth Advisory Commission member, please visit the PPD website under the Youth Programs tab to apply. I'm also happy to announce that we are currently holding another recruitment drive for the police department. The recruitment drive started on Sunday, August 1st. As you all know, our historically low staffing numbers have been the focus of attention lately, and we need quality candidates that want to be a part of the change and be the difference in their communities. If you happen to be driving down Broad and Erie, you'll see a PPD recruitment billboard featuring all female police officers. We're being very intentional with our messaging surrounding recruiting. And the reason behind this is twofold. First, we signed the 30 by 30 pledge earlier this year. And if you recall, the 30 by 30 pledge is our department's commitment to increasing the number of female officers that work here in the police department. Although the PPD is above the national average in terms of female law enforcement officers employed here in the department, we know that we can do better. Secondly, we need a variety of skills from different individuals to help our department to be more in tune with the community's needs. To my second point, a lot of people may think that because they haven't followed a traditional path for obtaining a career in policing, that they can't be here. And that's just not true. I, for example, was a single mother when I began my career in law enforcement. And although it was challenging, I did it. And it's been a very rewarding career and life-altering experience for me. So becoming an officer, even with young children, is absolutely a possibility. And obviously, the opportunity to keep rising through the ranks is definitely there. I also know plenty of officers that have come into policing after retiring from a previous career. Policing can be a second career for a lot of people. The benefit to having someone come into policing later on in life is that they carry with them various skills and life experiences that they can directly apply to their work as police officers. With all of that said, I encourage anyone who is interested in becoming a police officer to visit our website at joinphillypd.com for a link to the recruit officer application and additional information on the recruitment process. This recruitment drive is happening now and will end on the 31st, August 31st. Please keep in mind that you must be a Philadelphia resident for at least 1 year in order to be eligible to sit for the exam. Before I turn this over to Chief Inspector Kelly, I want to take a moment to mention that the PPD has received a big boost in the past few weeks from our federal partners. The ATF is lending a hand to our Forensics Bureau by supplying us with a second. In addition, the Office of Forensic Science will be working directly with the ATF's National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, or NIBIN as we like to call it, National Correlation and Training Center, the NNCTC. This partnership will allow OFS technicians to increase their capacity when entering test fires and fired cartridge casings, or FCCs, into NIBIN, while the NNCTC staff performs correlations from their center in Huntsville, Alabama. This help comes at no cost to the city of Philadelphia. So thank you publicly to the ATF and all of our other federal partners who've stepped up to assist us in our time of need. These partnerships and collaborations are what will help us get ahead of the violence and make our communities safer. With the added help in forensics, we will build stronger cases to ensure that dangerous individuals are taken into custody and remain in custody. Lastly, violent crime has been trending downward in the past couple of months, and our hope is that it continues to do so. While there is still a 25% increase in homicides over this time last year, we were around 40% just a few months ago. So to that end, I'd like to introduce Chief Inspector James Kelly, Chief of Regional Operations Command South, who will discuss what the police are seeing in the pinpoint grids. He will then be followed by Deputy Commissioner Ben Nash, Deputy Commissioner of Investigations, who will provide updates on several cases that we wish to highlight. Chief Inspector Kelly.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. So we'll take a look at a few slides that are basically giving an overview of the violence in the city. So if you look at the year-to-date homicide count, we're at about 25%. Now, of course, that is too high, and it's certainly not something we're happy with, but it is a downward trend, as the Commissioner said. And if you look at shooting victims, you'll see also we're at 25%. That is a downward trend that we're seeing. If you look down on the next category as far as homicide motives, you have arguments are down, child abuse is down, and they're low numbers to begin with. Commercial robberies, that is up, but it's a very low number. And domestics, unfortunately, are up. Our narcotics motives are down, and overall the clearance rate is 43%, which is slightly higher for this year over last year. Next slide, please. So this is a comparison of our weekly homicides and shooting victims. So as you see, currently the past week we were at 6. And if you look at the preceding weeks, there is a slight downward trend over the last month. And you also see it as well with the shooting victims. We're at 36, 56 previously, and 75. So we are working in a downward trend, which obviously we hope to continue. And all shooting occurrences are showing that as well. Next slide. So this is a slide that's basically giving you a breakdown of citywide where we're at with our homicides. And you see citywide, we're up 26%. But most importantly, in our Operation Pinpoint, which is our targeted grids of our most, looking back for quite some period, our most violent grids where we have the most gun violence. There is optimism here because you see that we are only up 2% there. And that shows that we're in the right places and we're having the effect that we need to have in those areas. So we'll switch to the next one, please. Now, the one important thing about the pinpoint, I have to point out, we're up, and I don't have a slide for that, but I double checked it this morning. We are up 70% in our gun arrests in the pinpoint grids. And that's obviously, that's credit to the job that our officers are doing, but it shows the department is focused in the right areas that we need to be focused in. These are the areas that we need to win and make the greatest improvement to change the overall homicide numbers for the city. And you look at shooting victims, you'll see kind of mirrors the homicides that were 25%, but then again, if you look in our Operation Pinpoint grids, we're down 8%. So that is definitely a very positive trend that we want to continue, if not improve. Okay, now if you look, this is a pretty sobering statistic if you look at it. So last year at this time, we had made 975 gun arrests, VUFA arrests. Currently, we are at 1670, which is an incredible improvement. And again, the credit, primarily goes to the young officers that are out there doing the job and trying to get the guns off the street. Next slide. Now, this is our guns recovered, crime guns recovered for the year. Now, if you look in 2020, we were at 4989. So far this year, and this is a correct number, we are at 3590, and we're projecting somewhere around 6100. That is a tremendous amount of guns recovered. Way too many, but that's how we're trending this year. So a lot of guns are being recovered. And the next slide, please. So these are the privately made guns. As you see, we also have an increase in those as well. We're at 333 for the year as compared to 250 last year. So to end on a positive note, we are seeing a slight downward trend in the homicides and the shooting victims, and we are way up for our illegal gun arrests for the year, which I believe is having an effect, particularly in our pinpoint targeted zones. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jim. I'm going to take over, and at this point, I want to say good afternoon to everybody. And today, I specifically want to provide some updates on a couple of investigations that have already been highlighted during previous mayor's press conferences, along with an update of another murder involving a young juvenile. Additionally, I'll be sharing video clips of 2 unsolved homicides with powerful images. The images capture what will hopefully lead to some tips from the public to assist us in solving those unsolved shootings. This first video is from Delaware Avenue, and this update is related to the investigation of the shooting that occurred on March 26th. You can start the video, Dina. It happened on March 26th of this year at 1084 North Delaware Avenue. The incident involved a brazen shooting that left 7 individuals shot on the sidewalk outside of the Golf and Social Club, and it was captured on video. Now, on March 31st, I spoke about and profiled the shooting on the mayor's press conference, and I can tell you that after an extensive investigation with the assistance from several law enforcement agencies that included the Cheltenham Police Department, the Norristown Police Department, the Montgomery County Probation Department, and the Pennsylvania State Police. And I can also tell you that we did receive some assistance from the public. An offender profile was developed. Video surveillance from numerous locations was obtained, placing the offender in a vehicle that was used before the shooting. And on July 27th, the offender, who is a 16-year-old male, whose name and photo I'm not going to display because he's a juvenile, he was charged with 7 counts of attempted murder. You can move over to the next slide, and what you see on your screen is what was originally a wanted poster and now is an arrest poster of Quadir Daly. This update is intended to provide an update on the homicide that occurred in our 39th district. And on April the 28th, I spoke about a homicide fugitive, Quadir Daly, in relation to a murder of a 15-year-old Namir Johnson. The incident occurred on April the 6th in the 2500 block of West Somerset Street. Namir was one of 2 juveniles that were shot and killed within blocks of each other, just 12 days apart back in April. On July 21st, members of the FBI and our Major Crimes Fugitive Task Force apprehended Mr. Daly after a brief foot pursuit. A firearm was recovered near the scene where Mr. Daly was arrested. Our investigators are continuing the investigation on the murder of 16-year-old Kadeem Green, who was killed on April the 14th on the 2900 block of North Taney Street. But so far, there are no charges yet for anyone in that murder. The next poster is of an individual named Luis Rodriguez. And I want to speak about this case. It has already received a fair amount of media attention, but it is notable, and the reason I'm speaking about it is because of the age of the victim, as well as the incredible challenges that were faced by our investigators. Just 4 days after 16-year-old Kadeem Green was shot to death on North Taney Street, police officers responded to another shooting of a juvenile who was shot in the head. This happened on Sunday, April the 18th at 10:58 p.m. 15th District officers responded to a call for a person with a gun, a person shot, inside of 1524 Overington Street. When the officers arrived, they located an unresponsive, unidentified Black female victim in the first floor apartment suffering from gunshot wounds to the mouth. Medics responded to the scene and they pronounced the victim dead at 11:12 p.m. On May 1st, this young female, was identified as 13-year-old Alizwana Carter. Now, the arrest of Luis Rodriguez for the murder of Alizwana Carter, a 13-year-old girl, and it was announced a little more than a week ago, but I'm specifically speaking about the case to highlight the tremendous work of our homicide investigators and also to let everyone interested know how personally we take the murders of our young children. And I can tell you that this challenging case was specially assigned to one of our most experienced homicide investigators who worked relentlessly during the investigative phase by pulling days and days of video surveillance, matching ballistic evidence. He conducted many interviews, and he finally brought together enough evidence to arrest the suspect for this heartless murder. All of this dedicated work will hopefully provide some closure to the family. And as I said, on Friday, July 23rd, our homicide detectives arrested 25-year-old Luis Rodriguez, charged him with murder and related offenses for his involvement in the murder of Alizwana Carter. Now I'm going to highlight a couple of more recent investigations that have been being conducted by the members of our homicide unit. And in these cases, this video, we're hoping that we can get some assistance from the public. And here's the first one. The first video is of our more recent investigations. It depicts a homicide and shooting that occurred on May 28th at approximately 9:11 p.m. On that Friday night in the area of 803 East Allegheny Avenue, a 35-year-old male was shot multiple times by a suspect he'd been talking to for a few minutes just prior to the shooting. The victim was transported by police to Temple Hospital, but he was pronounced at 9:29 p.m. Our victim had been driving a Lamborghini SUV before he stopped to talk to the shooter. Video was recovered from inside of the store, and that's what you just saw right there. These images were captured moments before the shooting occurred from the store. And you can see him talking to a number of people. There's even audio. There's two people that we've identified from this that we're trying to get information about. And here come the images of the shooting. Our victim is starting to run away. He's being chased by the shooter, and the shooter fires multiple times, and then he flees. If anyone has any information about either of these suspects or the incident, they're asked to contact our homicide unit, 215-686-3334, or call our tip line at 686-TIPS. And finally, the last video I have is of a homicide from 1629 West Cumberland Street. This occurred on July 10th of this year inside of 1629 West Cumberland Street. This incident happened at 10:54 p.m. A male offender, he entered the takeout restaurant that's located at that address at 1629. That's an image of the offender before the incident occurred, and here he comes walking into the store. He fired a handgun numerous times at our victim, who was shot and went down inside of the store. Our victim was shot multiple times, and you're seeing a number of people shortly, just seconds after the incident occurred, they go inside of the store. One of them grabs a gun that was in the hands of our victim, and that last individual goes through his pockets. It's pretty disheartening. If anyone has any information about these suspects or the incident, they're asked to contact our homicide unit, 686-3334, or call our tip line, 686-TIPS. And with this, I'm going to turn it back over to Dina. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to Q&A for members of the press. Because of limited time, only one representative from each media outlet is permitted to ask questions. Reporters are asked to limit their questions to 3 or fewer, and we're going to limit topics in the first round related to the presentations from today. If there's time for a second round, we'll open it up to questions on other topics. Armando is also joining us for Spanish interpretation. So we're going to get started here with Brian Mendoza from Telemundo. Brian, you should be able to go.
Hi there, good afternoon. This question is for Armando to see if you can translate for us. Armando, buenas tardes. Residentes de la ciudad con quienes hablamos el día de hoy dicen que sienten preocupación y hasta temor caminar por las calles y que les pueda pasar algo a ellos y a su familia también debido al alza de violencia que se ha estado viviendo en la ciudad. Dicen que se necesita mano dura para luchar contra la problemática, pero la pregunta para el alcalde es si él piensa que se está haciendo lo suficiente para luchar contra la violencia y cuál es el mensaje para los residentes.
Gracias, Brian. Mayor, the question is for you. Some residents we spoke with today were expressing their concern and their fear about walking the streets for themselves and their family given the increase in violence. They suggest that harsh measures be put in place. Do you think that enough is being done? And if so, what will be your message, again, for the community?
Well, we're certainly doing whatever we can do within the confines of the law. I don't know how you translate harsh measures. That does not historically bode well for folks what harsh measures are. But our investments that we're making with City Council in some of the young people that you've heard from this morning, and our police doing a terrific job out on the street, getting guns off the street and bringing to justice people who are shooting people and killing them, I think is the right direction we're going in. I do understand people's concern and fear, and we're going to work hard to remove that fear and concern as we go forward. And hopefully the trend we're seeing will continue.
Quiero que quede claro que lo que estamos haciendo se hace dentro de los confines que nos permite la ley. Y no entiendo exactamente a qué te refieres con usar la mano dura, pero muchas veces la mano dura no es exactamente lo que funciona. Nosotros hemos desarrollado una inversión de tiempo personal y esfuerzo con los miembros del Consejo Municipal para trabajar con la juventud, como se ha anunciado esta mañana, con diferentes programas. Nuestra policía está haciendo lo que es necesario para recobrar las armas de fuego ilegales que están en circulación, para traer ante la justicia a los perpetradores de estos hechos tan terribles como son los asesinatos por armas de fuego. Y nuevamente, quiero responder que las inquietudes y los temores de la sociedad, que estamos avanzando de una forma correcta y que queremos que esta tendencia continúe. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, la segunda y última pregunta, más dirigida a la comisionada Outlaw, pero no sé si tal vez el alcalde también pueda dar algún tipo de comentario. Hay jóvenes quienes dicen tener miedo a regresar a la escuela debido a esta alza de violencia. ¿Cómo se puede asegurar que ellos van a estar bien, ellos van a poder ir y regresar a casa y que no les va a pasar nada?
The second question is geared towards Commissioner Outlaw, although the mayor may have something to pipe in on that. And this is a question that has to deal with concerns of the youth, young people have about returning to school. How can they be assured, given the rise in violence, that they can be well while going to school and coming back home every day? What would you like to say to them?
Thank you for that question. We're well aware that kids are beginning to return to school as the seasons are beginning to change. We partner with the school district as well as with the school police in their Safe Corridors program. We also partner with Town Watch and make sure that there's communication between those entities responsible for enlisting volunteers to be out there in addition to our school crossing guards to make sure that the corridors our young people walk are safe. In addition to that, our district captains communicate very regularly, again, with those same entities to identify those schools that may be most at risk based off of previous history of what's occurred there. But this is something, again, that's definitely in our sights, and safe passage and safe corridors are extremely important to us.
Thank you. Brian, nosotros estamos muy conscientes de las preocupaciones que tienen tanto los padres de familia como los estudiantes al volver a la escuela, pero quiero que se sepa, y esto ya se ha conocido, de que nosotros estamos asociados con los distritos escolares, con la policía escolar, también con las juntas vecinales y con las comunidades que están reclutando voluntarios para ayudarnos. Tenemos los guardias de cruce peatonal para asegurarnos que los estudiantes puedan acceder a la escuela de una forma segura. Y por supuesto también tenemos los esfuerzos de los capitanes de distrito que están comunicándose con esas entidades mismas y para asegurarnos que las escuelas que tienen problemas históricamente sean vigiladas doblemente. Definitivamente hay que mirar lo que se está haciendo para poder darles un pasaje seguro, una educación segura y confiable a los estudiantes y las familias de Filadelfia. Gracias.
Gracias, Armando. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Next, we have Aaron Moselle with WHYY.
Thanks for taking the questions. I guess these are probably for the mayor about the community grant program. The first question I have is if you could define kind of what you mean by mid-sized organizations, and also wondering relatedly kind of why smaller organizations below whatever the threshold is will not be considered for this grant program.
Well, they've been considered for the first program that we instituted. When I say medium to large organizations, talking about organizations that could handle $100,000 to $1 million and do it transparently and within the regs that are required for spending taxpayers' money. So simply that.
I mean, does that have to do with their operating budget, or I mean, how are you determining whether or not they can handle?
Well,
that
I think it
kind of
has to do with. I think it has to do with capacity and the ability to conduct what they're saying they're going to do, and also keeping track of the receipts and other things.
I don't know what you think.
To make sure the money's spent properly. So that's unless Erica, if you have anything to add, maybe I'm not getting.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron. What I will say is when granting comes through between small grants, historically there were stop grants and previously, and then there are larger contracts. The folks who kind of the middle children of mid to smaller, large organizations kind of get overlooked. This is an opportunity to diversify funding, begin to support innovative programs, and help organizations who have been established for a period of time, who have a proven track record, kind of take it to the next level. And so we're not necessarily excluding smaller organizations, but we are focusing on organizations who need some development, some technical assistance, and some financial support to get kind of to the next level, where that is a gap that we've seen in terms of our funding and support and contracts, and that is where we're going to focus.
And the other question I had was also related to the grant program, which is, can you clarify when organizations are going to be selected and kind of when they may start seeing some of these organizations might actually have some of this cash on hand?
Sure. So just in terms of kind of really quickly, applications will open on Friday. We will be receiving applications for approximately 2 weeks. We will then take another week or two to begin to review applications. We expect that the first checks will go kind of in hand towards the end of September.
Okay, so it's just a 2 week application. The whole thing will wrap up in early September.
That is what we're looking at now. We're willing to be a bit malleable depending upon what we see in terms of time and what community kind of tells us. But right now, because there's such an urgency to get money out the door, we got to move quick. And we've begun some pre-conversations with partners and organizations to let them know that this is coming down the pipeline and to kind of keep their eyes open. But we're going to do a full court press and hope that we have your assistance in doing that full court press to making sure we're getting the information out.
Just to be clarified, I'm sorry, but it's not that people cannot apply between August 6th and September 3rd. It's August 6th to August 16th is the window for people to apply.
That's approximately it. I don't have the calendar right in front of me, but that's approximately right.
Okay.
Aaron, let me clarify with you offline, because my understanding was that the applications will begin being reviewed on August 16th, but we can get the final closing date for you.
Okay, great.
Okay, next we'll have Kristen Johansson with KYW.
My first question is, I guess, for either for Outlaw or Kelly, the slight downward trend that you guys are seeing, can you attribute that to anything?
Yeah, before I turn it over to Chief Kelly, I mean, again, we've been very consistent in following our strategies, and sometimes you just have to give it a little bit of time for it to work. But we know that, we've been flooding areas where we've been having the most problems through the use of data, bolstering areas in our pinpoint grids as needed, whether that's through foot beats or stationary beats, enhancing or adding capacity to the task forces that existed, partnering with federal partners and other partners, whether it's through warrant sweeps or just utilizing all of the other tools to prioritize what's going on in those areas. And, I think we're starting to see, things come into fruition. Again, it takes time, but I'll turn it over to Chief Kelly, given that obviously he's running Rock South.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I would agree with the Commissioner. We've made some very key arrests of shooters in some of our major shootings recently, but we are really doubling down on the areas that we know are most problematic. And then when we see something surge, we immediately try to react to it, but also try and dig a little deeper to see what is the cause of it. I'll use Southwest Division as an example. We've had a dynamic that has involved several districts all tied into several groups. And we've focused very strongly on these groups, and we've gotten help from our FBI partners as well as the Attorney General's office and DNI. And we've made some key arrests out there, and I don't want to jinx us or get too happy with ourselves, but it has seemed to quiet down that particular issue. And that's kind of like a microcosm of some of the issues that we see around. We try to make sure that we get on it right away, move resources into there, but also kind of dig deeper. I have to say our captains are really well versed with problem players in the individual districts and what's generating the violence. We work every day in conjunction with our Criminal Intelligence Bureau and, as the Commissioner said, with our outside partners. So, and I know we're a little bit down as far as personnel goes, but we've been trying to make up for it with additional supplementation manpower. And we're just really trying to stay ahead of it or immediately get on top of it so it doesn't continue to rise in particular problematic areas.
And our non-police issues, we were limited in our ability to directly interface with people because of the pandemic. As the pandemic started to ease, and although we were dealing with the variant, as the pandemic started to ease, our non-police personnel were able to get in person, face to face, with a lot of these folks who are at risk of shooting or being shot. And I think that cumulatively is also working as we ramp up and actually see more people and interact with more people on a weekly basis.
And when you say personnel, you mean police officers?
I'm talking about our violence intervention folks, the people on the street. There are not sworn police officers that are interacting with young people who are at risk. That was limited because of our inability to have face-to-face encounters. Obviously, we're worried about the variant, but at this point in time, on Saturdays and night times and weekends, we're able to interact with those young people in a more direct way.
And Chief Kelly, that was a good segue into my second question, Mayor, and for Commissioner Outlaw. You foresee this recruitment campaign to maybe getting the numbers back up to about 6,500, as I know we're right around about 6,000.
That would be great if we could get back up to 65.
I mean, look, I get along with council quite well. I mean, really don't have any problems with them. I don't think this was a good idea to change the residency to make it pre-employment. I think it's going to hamper our ability to go into areas of the country, HBCUs, the military, other places where we could recruit qualified, dynamic people and have them establish their residency in Philadelphia after we offer them a job. But council, went overwhelmingly, I think unanimously, to require that pre-employment residency. And I think it's going to slow us down because we can't go to places where we normally would go to recruit high qualified people and people of color.
But the police department itself is authorized for the 6,500. It's just that we can't necessarily find those police officers.
Well, that and people are leaving every day. I mean, people are retiring, and it's a hard job, and it's been an extremely hard job over the last year and a half. And people, as you've seen in all law enforcement, are getting burned out. We don't look at what happened to Capitol Police. I mean, and the Metropolitan Police in Washington. They're going through a horrible time right now based on the insurrection. But it's a hard job, and it takes a lot out of you emotionally.
I'm just clarifying that the authorization level is for 6,000.
I believe, yes.
I'm finished. Thanks, Ian.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Layla Jones with Billy Penn.
Hello, thank you. My first question is for Commissioner Danielle Outlaw or someone from the police department. Can you talk about some of the things that the PPD Youth Advisory Commission will be doing to help, advance its mission about focusing on issues that are crucial to youth and cultivating those young leaders?
Sure. Thank you for that question. And before I turn it over to Chief Altavice Love Craighead, who's on to talk in more detail about the Youth Advisory Commission, I just want to say this to bridge that gap, to connect that bridge chasm. You know what I'm saying? We knew that in 2020, amongst the themes and patterns, social media beefs that we were seeing around violence and, open air drug markets and narcotics and domestic violence and just technology, the other theme that we saw was that there was a huge disconnect between us and our young people. And we knew that because we heard it, whether, it was in our virtual community meetings, out in the field and neighborhoods, they would tell us, and we all know, whether as parents or as, those of us who have been around young people and young adults, our young people know what's going on in these streets before we know. And so we had to do something very intentional and meaningful to make sure that we kept our ear to the ground and provided a venue for our young people to communicate with us, specifically with me and the rest of the executive team. So I made very clear that I wanted to form an advisory commission specifically for our young people so that they did have that direct access, but they can also not only provide their lived experience and their perspective, but help us shape and inform policy and even training as it relates to our interactions with young people. Chief Love Craighead, is there anything else you want to add?
Hello, yes, I do. The Youth Advisory Commission will specifically be youth-driven, with the goal of recommending measures for addressing youth concerns and needs directly to the police department, with opportunities to meet directly with the police commissioner. It will provide an opportunity for youth to learn about policing, create partnerships for youth to co-produce public safety while developing a positive relationship and mentorship with law enforcement officers. Activities will focus on youth development, quality of life, public safety awareness, and addressing key issues relevant to the youth. Examples of these would be holding a youth summit on policing, creating a youth-focused public service announcement, and having youth and PPD discussions about how to improve the relationship between police and Philadelphia's young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My second question was for maybe the mayor or someone from the managing director's office, I'm not sure. And it's about, last week, WHYY shared a study that said historically segregated blocks of Philadelphia saw crime rates drop by nearly 22% after even just a single home on the block received city-funded repairs. That article also shared that there's a backlog in the basic systems repair program. So I just kind of want to know, how is the city developing a property repair investment plan that's aimed at reducing gun violence and crime with this data that we have?
Is Tumar you on?
Afternoon, everyone. Yes, Mayor, I'm on. I think that answer, Layla, how are you? I think that answer will revolve around us having some conversations with our planning and development department that manages that BSRP program. I know throughout the pandemic, there was a lot of extra funding that went into those type programs that we pushed out. That funding and that organization pushed out that funding to be able to support these houses on the block. But you're correct. I mean, as Erica could talk more about, as a part of our violence prevention efforts, it's a conversation that we have weekly with all of our city departments and PPD in the room around what non-police activities we could do in these neighborhoods. Some of that is cleaning and sealing abandoned buildings in neighborhoods. Some of that is cleaning vacant lots in neighborhoods. Some of that is improving the street lighting in these neighborhoods. So it's us addressing those quality of life crimes and issues, and certainly BSRP and those programs and that support plays a part in that. So, but I would like to get you a fuller answer, sort of confirm with our team from the Office of Planning and Development.
But it's also a matter of resources. And I wish we had all the money that we need to do everything that everybody wants to do. And it's difficult to setting those priorities. And we have lots of people, looking for assistance in many different levels, and it's understandable. But we need continued help from the feds and from the state to do all the things that's expected of a city to do.
Thank you both. And that kind of leads to my final question, which was with regard to those limited resources and the huge asks that I'm sure you all are faced with. I imagine that the backlog for different things come from all around the city, probably including neighborhoods that aren't as affected by crime and violence. So do at-risk neighborhoods receive priority when it comes to these types of services?
I personally don't know that sitting here, but I could find out. We can get back to you.
So
it would seem to me logical that the more poverty-stricken the neighborhood is, the more need there is, and the more requests there are for that kind of assistance. Sure enough, we're doing VSRP in Chestnut Hill. We're probably doing it in neighborhoods that are struggling financially and struggling with poverty. But we can get you a more defined answer.
Yeah, Erica might be able to jump in a little bit too.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. And hey, Lila, just want to let you know, so utilizing a number of data sets from the police department, the health department, which include kind of social determinants of health, which encompasses educational attainment, poverty, blight, and environmental issues, access to health. That is how we're focusing our efforts of Roadmap to Safer Communities. And we're focused in 10 police districts, even more tightly in the pinpoint areas in those districts. And you will see that there is an overlap and an overlayer of not only instances of gun violence and homicide, but also higher rates of poverty and lower rates of educational attainment and lower rates of economic mobility. And so we are very much looking at a holistic approach when we are investing in efforts that are either social service led or, to your point, environmentally led. And I will say that we have previously CHOP did a program with kind of lead remediation and some repairs of homes in their kind of catchment area. And also University of Pennsylvania is doing the same thing. And we have been in communication with them and partnered with them. So where we don't have resources, we make sure that we inform and leverage the other resources that are available to residents.
Thank y'all. I will try to send a follow-up email for those more detailed responses as well.
Okay, thanks, Layla. Next, we have Saj Purple Blackwell. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. So my initial question is for any of the officers of the commissioner on the line. With guns that we are taking off the streets, or definitely is an uptick of that number, especially from last year. What are they doing with the guns after they're being retrieved?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. When we recover a gun as a result of an arrest or any kind of a recovery, that gun is traced, the ownership is determined, where did the gun come from, whether it was purchased and it was a legally owned firearm, whether it was reported stolen, where. The goal is to try and figure out how did it get into the hands of somebody who was arrested somewhere in the city. After the trace, as the trace is being done, the weapon has a ballistic test done on it. A test firing of that weapon is done. And as the commissioner noted in her presentation, the NIBIN system, which is a scientific way of identifying, it's kind of like a fingerprint for a gun. Every gun is going to fire off a projectile and it's going to leave a certain microscopic impressions. By examining those microscopic impressions, we're able to correlate and find out and connect the weapon to any existing retrieval of any other casings, fired cartridge casings that may have been recovered for years. Every time that we do it, it's entered into the computer. So one gun that's recovered today could come back to multiple shootings that have happened in the past 2 months or 2 years or even longer, as long as we've been doing it. We have a big library of all of the fired cartridge casings. Sometimes we have connections on those casings, even without the gun. So we know that there are likely some connections between a shooting from North Philadelphia and a shooting from another part of the city or in West Philadelphia, but we may not have the gun. Now, when we make an arrest with a gun, it's an investigative lead and we follow up on it. So they're all used as a critical piece of evidence. And then ultimately, once any cases that are associated with it are done, they're going to be burned. So that's where they ultimately go. Hope that answers your question.
It definitely does. That's a lot. And thank you. And my second question, it will be for Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, with the latest information that, there's been slight reduction in the numbers all across in regards to gun violence. There is a rally going on tonight with the women of Philadelphia who have lost their children and babies tonight to protest about it. What would you say to them?
I would say to them that my heart breaks for them and their loss, and that we're working hard every day to ensure that other families won't go through this, and that it's been a very difficult problem for us to address, and we're doing everything that we can to get those numbers down to zero if we can, and we want their and need their support, to help us get where we need to be.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. And our final question is Trang Do with CBS 3.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking my question. Just a quick question for Commissioner Outlaw or perhaps Chief Kelly. My apologies if Kristen already covered this. However, just wondering if the downward trend that we're seeing in homicides and shootings this week, do you think that's at all related to the increase in firearms arrests?
I would think, yes, there is a correlation to it, as well as we've had some significant arrests of what I would characterize as prolific shooters that have been involved in shootings consistently for a period of time. But yes, the first place we start is to try and focus on those areas with the most gun violence to get illegal guns off the street. So I do believe there is a correlation there, particularly in our pinpointed targeted grids.
Let me just say in advance, we are encouraged by trends. We may have a bad weekend. We may have a bad couple days. So I mean, this is not mission accomplished. This is a hopeful trend that we can continue to feed and make sure that things go in the right direction. But we may be sitting here 2 weeks from now with another story of a couple bad nights. So I don't want anybody to think that this is going to be over soon. It's going to be a long process.
We do keep pushing. We won't take our foot off the gas, and we push hard to keep our officers motivated and let them know we appreciate what they're doing out there. But we're going to keep pressing. We know we can't let up and all, like Mr. Mayor said, that it could go up, and it's not through a lack of effort, but we always got to give maximum effort for this, and we will continue.
Commissioner.
Just thank you so much for that. Just two quick questions for Deputy Commissioner Nash. Just related to the Golf and Social shooting, are you looking for anybody else? I mean, it was just so many people who were hurt in that shooting. I'm just wondering if you think it's a hero actor for that.
That's a great question. So the video tells us that there were two shooters. We arrested one of them. We were able to identify him. We were very confident we had the right person. He's facing a hearing and ultimately trial. But right now we have slight direction, but we really need some help from the public. I mean, as you mentioned, Trang, this was a case that garnered a lot of attention. It was very public. It was captured on video. 7 people were shot. We've always believed that people know who was involved. We got one of them. Now we're doing everything we can by tracing the steps and looking at the connections of the individual we have in custody. But so far we don't have the second person. So there is one other person that's responsible. It was just 2. We know them. We saw them do the shooting, and we saw them get into the car.
And just as a very brief question in regards to the robbery and homicide outside of the Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, do you have any update?
Well, I can tell you that right now, as you indicated, it has all the appearance of a robbery. Why the individual, after he was being robbed or while he was being robbed, was shot, we don't know that. We are in the process of trying to secure and obtain any and all video from the establishment as well as from the surrounding area. What we have is it was a white car. So we'll be checking all surrounding establishments, anybody with any neighborhood cameras. And again, this is enough. This is probably going to come down to being able to identify the car, trace the path of it. I can tell you that that is a large part of our successful investigations. I always talk about the importance of video. And right now, I mean, we don't think it's anything more. We don't necessarily think that there was any kind of a confrontation inside of the club. So there's not video from there. We think these guys were targeted while they were taking a smoke break. So it's a little bit early in the investigation. I'm sure we'll have more in the next couple of days, and I hope I'll be able to update you on that investigation. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, that will conclude today's briefing. We will reconvene in 2 weeks on Wednesday, August 16th. All right, take care, everyone.